Hey, what's going on, Georgia Truck Driver Nation? So this is going to be understanding the spot board negotiation as a professional freight dispatcher. I saw something recently, and it made me decide to go and make this one. Is when you're dealing with a broker, okay, you have to understand how to. Look, I don't want you having to justify everything you do as a freight dispatcher to a broker. Some of these people, you got freight dispatchers that act crazy, but you've also got brokers that act just as crazy. And I'm calling it crazy because I call it for what it is. You're going to go, holy hell, what is wrong with the individual? Um, and they're probably not going to care because when people make judgmental calls about me, shit, I don't care. You are who you are. I've been in this crap a lot longer than you have. So there's nothing I need to impress you by. I'm managing to make this far, then I'm sure I'll make it the rest of the way. But anyways, your job as this freight dispatcher when you're negotiating, looking at these spot boards, we're not. This is just concentrating more or less on the spot board. We're not going off into direct shippers. You need to negotiate with knowledge. Okay, communicate with professionalism, protect the truck at all times, and build the relationships with these brokers that are wanting to build a relationship with you. Now, the biggest misunderstanding new dispatchers have, most dispatchers believe the number posted on the load board is the real rate. It's not. Okay. That's literally an advertisement. That's the start rate of what they're trying to see that they can sell it for. Anybody that says that that is okay, well, we just go on the board and we take freight off of that load board based on that rate. Well, wouldn't that be nice? That means I know you met all my needs, that we're making a profit. I get it. And if people don't understand where brokerage, how they even came in, that didn't even happen until 1980. So you need to go back. You need to understand some history if you're actually going to be understanding what happened in 1980 versus what was before that, how freight was actually handled. And then after 1980, obviously, once that was put in the mandate, then obviously how this brokerage thing even came into place. And the biggest excuse that we're always going to hear, I'm not disagreeing, but that I see coming to a change based on what technology, infrastructures, APIs, all this other stuff that we're having integrated in is actually the fragmented aspect or picture that people try to paint that is what makes up logistics. Will it always be fragmented? Yes, because you're talking about on a national level, that being the United States, and then on a global level, that's two different platforms. And obviously, you're not going to get a third world country to come up to speed to where we are unless, as we pull it through freight forwarding, once it goes to the actual national side, being us, then obviously at that point, then we can obviously bring it into our system as it comes through the gates, and then obviously we got better control of it, and then it shouldn't be so fragmented. But right now, it's still considered to be fragmented. But now a job of a professional dispatcher is not to simply book loads. Okay. Your job, first, you need to be able to interpret the market, understand what the market's doing. And we're going to go through that so you can understand how to understand your spot board and what it actually represents. Understand the ability to leverage what you're doing. You're leveraging your capacity. Your capacity is your truck to be able to move that freight from point A to point B based within the time spectrum of that given the given requirements that the broker has set for him on that given customer. Protect truck profitability. If it's not being profitable, then you cannot take it. You know the goals and expectations of your trucks, whether you're this your company or you're working on behalf of an owner operator or whatever the scenario turns out to look like. You know what requires there be profitability, or you've been mandated different rates that you have to meet that mark in order to justify taking that load. Um, Read the broker's behavior. When you're doing this, you're reading people through a phone. We don't have face-to-face video conferences when we book these loads. Would it be a great thing? I don't know. I particularly don't really want to deal with them because now if I see their face, that's going to resonate in my mind that that might be a broker I want to put my hands on. Most of the time, most transactions are bing, bang, boom, everything's good, and you're ready to move forward. Now, negotiate with professionally. Just being like, don't cuss, don't argue, don't fight with them. There's no sense in it, but you're going to see that sometimes they don't like what you have to say. or some of them just suck at doing this. Okay, they're not no good. They were probably never good people to begin with, and they come in. Somebody gave them an opportunity to get in logistics, and they think they're going to push their way through this and push people around. You might want to watch that. Somebody will show up at your address and help show you what being pushed around is all about. Avoid emotional reactions. Don't let them provoke a reaction. Remember, everything's being recorded. All these phone lines that we got, they were being recorded. And so that it would be great grounds for them to justify on behalf of their company if they want to mess you up to put a freight guard on you. Now you didn't only not only the freight guard in place, now you have a record to justify or to clarify that this was the outstanding. And remember, everything's under interpretation. So don't put yourself in that situation. Now, the posted rate is a starting point. Okay, that's all it is. It's just a starting position, and then really it's a testing point to kind of see what it will take. And it's also a market signal. Now, the market signals can be up or down. Them things can. Everybody thinks, well, that's what it is for the day. But as the day goes along, it can change. Okay, it's just I'm calling it kind of like a stock market for some degree because as the day goes along, the demand, give or take, high or low, can actually change the rhythm of the actual pricing based on the trailers that are actually located in that area. Now, sometime an international, let's see, sometimes an intentional low offer will be out there. Every one of them you got to read when you're asking them and talk to them because I don't look at it whether they're high or low. If they're high, they meet my needs. I'm good with it. You know what I mean? Well, I'll try to see if I can get a little extra on it. That's business. But if they're really low, I'm going to still call them because they may have made a mistake. I know the freight can't move for that given rate. Now, if they're saying, yeah, we book them that all day long, well, keep on booking them and book them right into going out of business because that's exactly what you're doing. And if they're willing to take it for that rate, that's their call on that. Um, let's see. Like I said, sometimes it's a mistake, and sometimes there could be an urgent shipment that they're willing to cough it up. Because but people don't understand when you're looking at critical transport. You ever seen the ones that are actually like, um, let's see, what would you call it? They're kind of like box trucks, 28 foot. So somewhere in there, they usually have a lift gate. They might be a combination of dry van or refrigerated. That's usually because somebody forgot something. Okay. And they actually will pay those trucks. I kind of like doing hot shot. But that being said, if they've got urgent freight and it could be hardly nothing, and they will pay big dollar to get it moved, and it needs to be there, grabbed, and gone, and get it to where it needs to get to as quickly as possible. So when it comes in the considerations of that, that can make a big difference in what you're able to negotiate and get a higher rate and be more profitable in that particular load. Um, let's see. Sometimes already underpriced. Say I'm looking at the load, it's way underpriced based on the spot market today. I would love the opportunity to be able to take that. This is what we have it. I'm just reaching out. So maybe you didn't know it was out there on the board that was marked at that. You don't know. Mistakes happen. And I'd like to, bring it up to speed and see, if you'd consider us for taking that freight for you. If it's a no-go, well, it's still a no-go. Well, appreciate your time. Have a great day, and hopefully we'll catch you on the next one. Sometimes overpriced. If it's overpriced, I've never seen a lot of people overpriced, but if it's overpriced, you better understand why it's overpriced. Overpriced can mean two things. There's a lot more attached to the load, like drops and stuff like that, or it could be overpriced because they're trying to double broker. That's the two immediate ones. Because remember, I'm not running off a script. I'm just talking to you the way I see it and the way we live in this industry. So keep that in mind when you're actually dealing with us. Now, the reality of smart market freight. Smart market freight is negotiation based. Okay, it's not like dealing with a direct shipper where you probably run on a contract. It may not even be a contract. It may be they're giving you an opportunity to show your performance before they feel like making any long-term commitments, and they might give it a while, 2, 3 months, whatever, before they're willing to negotiate out a contract. And now you've got a stable client for that freight for, let's say, for 12 months. And obviously, there's ways you can help that, make it better that relationship, and there's other ways you can destroy it because some people get contracted rates, and then next thing you know, they're seeing the spot board paying more, and versus how much profit they made over the year, they might abandon that and say, "Well, we don't have a truck available," and take the exact same load, and they're probably not going to know depending on how their setup is, based on what truck's carrying which MC numbers and stuff like that, then in that given situation, they'll take the spot rate over the actual contracted load, or it could be a spot rate for somebody else, not even had nothing to do with that contracted load, and they'll bypass it. And probably they do that too many times without rational cause, realistic, whatever, then that's going to be a red flag to them, and they won't renew the contract. But anyways, when freight is posted, and the ones I did, we were going over. So DAT, Freight and Analytics, so DAT board. And I always say Freight and Analytics because you can go in there and kind of see what the market's doing. Next, the other one we use is Truck Stop, and then finally 123 Load Board. Now, that means they are looking for capacity. Capacity is your truck. So that's the advantage that by the brokers posting their freight on these three, really the main two is DAT and Truck Stop. But that being said, they're posting on there because they need somebody to move that freight. They don't have the assets to do it, so they're reaching out to outside carriers to actually do it, third-party carriers. They are testing the market as well. When they're looking at it, they may have it set for a certain price, and they're hoping to look at it and say, well, hopefully we can get it sold cheap so we make a better profit margin on this, which they run off commissions to the majority. I know some of them do get paid salaries, but that being said, that's the way they're basically using it to test the market as they're posting that freight. They may already expect negotiations, so they may have already given it some slack. So to make you feel like you won, they'll leave some slack in it. So when they know what you're going to ask, that they're willing to give to your wants, because they're using strategy as well. So keep that in mind when you're actually talking to them. Don't think they didn't expect it. They did. Now the broker is entering the entering the problem. What the hell? I don't even know what that means. But anyways, the broker entering I don't know, it looked kind of like it, whatever. But the problem happens when the dispatcher's negotiation are emotional. That's a big problem for brokers. It shouldn't, that you don't let emotions get in the business. Okay. It's either workable number wise or it's not workable. Brokers negotiate emotionally. Now, if you got both of them negotiating emotionally, then you got to fight. Neither side understands the market reality. Otherwise, you got two damn dum-dums on the phone, not understanding what the market was actually doing to begin with before they even got on there. And they should have looked at what the market is doing. The professional dispatcher mindset. A dispatcher should never think, I'm trying to beat the broker. You're not trying to beat the broker. You're trying to work with the broker. Okay. They're there. Okay. Until something changes, transparency, or whatever this turns out to look like, you're working with them. Okay. And so you're not just want a one-time relationship. I'd like to build a long-term relationship. What if I get that load from them and they got something on the other end as well? If you don't ask, you don't know. Okay. Instead, think, I'm trying to determine whether the freight makes business sense for this truck. That's absolutely the mindset you need to have, because at the end of the day, or at the end of that load, by the time you get the rate confirmation, you need to make sure that it's profitable. Now, the core principle, a truck cannot survive on emotion. A truck survives on the cost per mile, negotiating the fuel costs, calculating the deadhead, what the driver's pay is, because that's in consideration of the profitability, the maintenance program, which you should have one set up, the timing, can I make this load? Can I pick it up? Whether it's first come or first serve, can I meet the demands of getting there and getting the load? The market conditions based on all these factors, not just the market on the spot board, but all these really is the market conditions. When I get there, will I be able to secure another load based on the region I'm going to and make it? And then the risk, I would consider that to be the weather conditions and things of that degree, going into the mountain range, the year of the equipment, the quality of driver, all those different factors are going to be the risk factors that you have to incorporate. And there's a lot more than that, but I'm just going through a nutshell. Now, if a load does not support operations properly, it does not matter if the broker becomes upset. The truck still has to survive financially. The whole thing is, if it's not profitable, it is absolutely a no-go. So this is kind of a flow chart, how to interpret a spot load board. So the load appears on the board. You check the market conditions through DAT, Truck Stop, or 123 load board. You determine the truck's profitability. We're talking about the rate per mile, including the deadhead, the fuel, and the time. Remember, you got hours of service on your ELD. One, the load makes sense. Call professionally and verify the load. Agreement found. We're talking about, negotiating it out, finding out what it's going to look like, and then the backhaul. So the backload. Now, that being said, I don't really believe in the backload part because the truck has to be profitable both directions. Now obviously I'm going down South Florida. I'm gonna have a hard time getting freight out of there. It's just the reality of how the market runs. I can't change the world to make damn sense. Okay. If people see an advantage in the world of business, they're going to leverage that to their benefit. So always make sure that you have the hindsight and the eyesight to see, hear, and realize what's going on so you know how to fall in to the pressure points, whether they're positive or negative, on how to maximize the profitability out of any given situation. Now, the other side, the load's too cheap. Negotiate politely without emotion. It's either a go or a no go. If the broker's hostile because they don't like what you have to say, maybe you did say something that pissed them off, but don't get emotional about it. Okay. They're either going to come up on the price where it meets the needs of the truck to be profitable, or it's going to be a no go. And then obviously exit professionally. Basically, I'm on standby. My truck's in the area, ready to go. 20 miles down the road, please let us know. We'd love the opportunity to carry the freight, but I understand that you have conditions that you need to have met, and so do we as being a profitable trucking company and being sustainable. Now, how to interpret what the spot market is really saying. So here's an example situation. The broker posts $1,800 on a load. Your truck needs $2,500. Now, the beginner dispatcher thinks, well, the broker is insulting us. That's the wrong interpretation. A professional dispatcher thinks, okay, this is what possibility of what's going on. The broker intentionally posted it low. The broker has flexibility. So when I do call him, I'll be able to negotiate that out a little bit better. The broker already has cheaper trucks available. Is that a possibility? Let's see how many trucks are actually already in standby in that given area so we can determine before we get in here. Now you need to make moves. You can't sit around and play around all day. This freight needs to move. And people are looking for it just like you're looking for it. The freight is weak in that lane. Is it? The freight's weak in the lane. What lane are we talking about? Okay. And you can go in, you can find historical data, but in the overall essence, what kind of trailer are we talking about for that given lane based on the season as well, when what the market's doing. Um, the broker is fishing for desperate trucks. Maybe so. When you be fishing, yeah, it's business. Okay. They have the right. Welcome to America. This ain't fit for everything that you want, but I'm not carrying it for. That thing is, it's hell for me to have to get you to understand. Don't take the damn freight if it don't pay. That's bottom line. Don't take it. But the other idea is the broker accidentally posted incorrect pricing. It does happen. They're busy. They got a lot of shit going on across their board. They got new customers they're dealing with. Some of them have freight agents. Maybe the information got moved wrong from the broker to the freight agent that's trying to sell that freight, or they posted it wrong. Those type of things do happen, and you just have to. They'll make an adjustment. They'll tell you what happened. That's just the way it is. The market shifted recently. It can reshift suddenly. I mean, if you got no trucks and all of a sudden it's overflooded with trucks, now I can bring that freight down. Somebody's going to want to take it to try to move their truck out of that area without having to deadhead out of there. There's always somebody for someone kind of deal. Um, or there's someone for everybody type of deal. So keep that in mind. So the next thing is this is why you call. You're calling for one, as the dispatcher, you need to determine, is the broker flexible? Okay. Make sure you got your questions ready. Is the freight urgent? Urgency equals more money. Is the market changing? Look at the board and see what changed on the number of trucks coming in and out of the state. Is there a negotiation room? You can do the same old, but at the end of the conversation, if it doesn't meet your mark, if they're calling and they're saying 1,800 and I know I need to be 2,800 or whatever it is, I'm probably going to say, yeah, I wish I could take that load, but I can see that that's just too much distance in between us. And they're probably going to ask, well, what are you looking to get? And say, I'm just looking to get about 2,800. That's the only thing that's going to make my truck worthwhile for us to get that load, and we would love to have it, but We ain't gonna understand your point of view too. And you might negotiate it down. Maybe you can get it within a reasonable rate. But don't start out low. Always start high and then work your way some down low. You start at 30% above the actual profitable rate, then you can work your way down and you already know what your bottom line mark's going to be, even if they were coming in low. But if they're willing to take a bid on it to understand what you're needing, then they can come on down. If they're willing to, they're just trying to cut you off, then that kind of turns into that hostility deal. So where you just walk away from it. But always leave it open. Don't use closed in sentences. Always leave it open-ended. Then I have a truck standing by. We are ready to go. It's 2026 Cascadia with a brand new 2025 trailer. Got a team drivers on there. We're ready to roll, or whatever the scenario turns out to be. Does the load actually fit your truck? Okay, for one, can you put it in your truck? Even if it may not be made for your truck, or it may wanted a different type of trailer, will they allow it to go in your truck? And will it fit your truck? Because remember, you got weight restrictions because every setup is based on a different weight that you have to figure, okay, well, that amount of weight fit on my truck type of deal. Or will it fit even in the actual diameters of my truck? Can I take something that they needed a flatbed because they knew it was going to be bigger than what fit into a dry van, but can I fit it in there and can I get it out without damaging my trailer? And how they going to get it out on the other end, whatever the scenario turns out. I'm giving you variables because I'm brainstorming as I'm talking to you, given all the scenarios that I've experienced in the past. So hopefully you can see through that to kind of get some kind of insight to what we're speaking about here. Now, this is the purpose of the call, not to fight. Reason we say fight so much because everybody gets stressed, they get aggressive, and you just got to keep that. If you maintain a calm, rhythmic tone to your voice, it'll keep them less aggressive. Now, if they've been fighting with people all day, you may not have stood a chance when you walk through the door, but keep that in mind. Okay, how a professional handles rate gaps. Okay, wrong response. That the rate is, don't come on say, oh, the rate's terrible. What the hell, man? I mean, what are you looking at? Why this fails? It creates conflict immediately. It sounds that you're getting all emotional. It sounds that when you're inexperienced for sure. And it puts the broker on a defensive state of mind. Once you get somebody pissed off and they get in a defensive state of mind, dude, I'm just calling about the freight, brother. Dude, I need the freight. This is what I can carry. I don't care what the board says, and I don't care about anything else. This is me and you talking. Okay. And I get you're a business minded person. I just know the truck that I have, we have to have this amount. We have to make, when our mark's $1,450 a day, for example, that's not going to cut it. Okay. That doesn't meet the profitability of our truck, and they're not going to care. So don't get too far into the details of your economics of coming down to your equipment, but they know that what you're doing. So if they can respect it, or they can start becoming aggressive too. But keep the tone. Don't give out more information than necessary, but give out enough that definitely justifies that you're a professional dispatcher and the equipment has to actually make a profit. Now, the professional response, I appreciate it. I think we may be a little far apart on this one. I understand where you're at. Now, based on the truck's operating requirements, we're going to need probably around 2,500 to make this one work. And why this works, for one, you're being calm. You're being professional. You're not getting all emotional. You're staying business focused, and it leaves the room for negotiation because it's open ended. Okay. Understand the words that you're using. For all my non English speaking freight dispatchers, if you don't know the language and you got a bad accent, work on getting it cleaned up because a lot of these people, but even from our side, I get people in there. I have a hard time negotiating the rate because I know you're speaking English, but I have no idea what the hell you're saying because you got such a heavy accent. It's beat me to death. And I'm redneck. I got a southern accent. So it's got to be aware of that. Now, professional counter responses. So we're talking about after what's been said, we're making counter responses. And this is just a few examples based on the given situation, the type of truck, the type of freight, you need to adjust accordingly. Option one, and we call it a deflection, a calm deflection. No problem at all. I just wanted to see if there was any flexibility in the rate before we moved on. And they're going to probably ask you, left it open ended. We're probably like, well, what are you trying to look to get out of it? I mean, make off of it. Um, I mean, to, move it for, and let's see, what we can work. And then you go in, presenting, hey, right now this truck, I've got to be somewhere, like we said just earlier, I got to be somewhere around that 2,500 mark to make this work. No, we're all in. Everybody's all in. Okay. Um, that being said, you know, is there any way, I can get, I mean, how far are you willing to meet me on it? That's a bad response. I would probably come down. I tell you what, I think I could get him because you're always representing your owner operator. I think I could get him probably go for 2,400. If you want to, I can get him on the phone now and I can confirm we can book it now. He's standing by waiting on load. So always try to keep it moving, okay? But always leave it open ended. Option two, market-based response. Be careful where you're using this because this causes probably the most number of fights I've seen. Um, we're comparing against current market conditions and the truck operating costs. I completely understand if you're limited on the rate. So that being said, and what you're comparing with, you're actually looking at it, the market conditions based on how many trucks, what rate it is, what kind of weather it is, all the factors that determine how the truck's movement, including the fuel. Then, you're basically, I'm just looking at the market. I'm just carrying against the market rate, and I'm comparing it against, what the normal truck operation cost is running us right now. And I completely understand if you're limited to the rate, but this is what we need. We've got to get as close to that 25 as possible for it to work for us. Now, option two is your exit professionally. Always exit the conversation professionally and open ended. Like, don't shoot yourself in the foot. They will call you back. I appreciate your time. If there's anything changes on that rate, feel free to give me a reach back. I mean, reach back out to me. My truck's here standing by. The guy's ready to get go. 20 miles out, whatever it might be, and we'll be sitting here. If you get a change, please let us know as soon as possible. We'd love the opportunity to work with you. So that's uh, the biggest thing that you're going to actually do. Now, the biggest mistake that dispatchers make, I want you to understand this, out of this right here, this counter response, is they respond either emotionally, and that completely destroys the leverage for any of the other options where you could step into this conversation to hopefully manipulate or negotiate out where it's profitable for you. They don't want to deal with you. That's it. Party's over. Still try to do your best, leave it professionally if you actually escalate it to that given point, but try not to put yourself in a situation where you're shooting yourself in the foot for the next go round because you might end up talking to the same broker again or freight agent again based on your needs just because they got freight on the board. Now, why this matters is because the trucking industry is relationship based. Oh my gosh, it's the tattoo and the t-shirt of my life. Okay. You've got to be a socially connectable person, social connections, and communication. So if you're an introvert, it's going to be hard on you. So always stay calm again. One more time, avoid ego battles because you think you're somebody and they think they're somebody. Nobody ain't nobody. This is just business. Get rid of that crap out your head. You take that home with you. You're going to turn to yourself because remember, that shit becomes habits. And that actually will turn out to be a part of who you are if you don't watch that. Okay. That is how humans work. That's how your brain works. That thing's sitting between your two ears. So don't let it get you in the hole you can't get out of. Now, understanding what each load board is telling you, and we're going to go, what we're doing is going to do DAT, truck stop, and 123 load board. Now, what DAT usually reflects, they show, the strong market data, and they also have the historical lane pricing and the market averages and the trend analysis. So when you're looking at there, make sure you use them and you understand how to use them and what kind of freight they're good to evaluate. It's best, the best use for it is understanding the broader market conditions, the lane trend analysis, and really the rate per mile evaluation. The weakness is posted rate is not always the final rate. Okay. So that being said, remember, it's just data. Nothing solidified. That doesn't mean that's what the loads are going to end up paying off and being. For truck stop, what truck stop often reflects, they get a real-time truck pressure type of deal. What trucks need to be wearing, that type of stuff based on the type of truck and capacity you have. It's a fast moving spot freight board. It really is. And more active negotiation environments. Like let's say, for example, some of the smaller loads and stuff like that. So each one of these are going to be best for different types of trucks. The biggest one is probably maybe for hot shot, like hot freight, time sensitive load, active, like that expedited freight, or hot shot freight. Some of the small, even the Sprinter vans. So keep that in mind. The weakness, it can be highly volatile. They're all over the place. And that's the reason I don't like messing with those small trucks. But you use this for big trucks too. Don't get me wrong. They've got big loads up there for 53, 48-foot trucks. Some people say, well, this one's good for reefer. This one's good for dry van. This one's good more for flatbed and step deck. I don't know. But each one, as you go down DAT, as far as my opinion, is the leader, truck stop. And then you've got a real drop off by the time you get the 1, 2, 3 load board based on the quality of loads or the amount of brokers that actually post their loads on these boards. Now, what 1, 2, 3 load board often reflects is going to be smaller brokerage networks. They're going to be mixed freight quality and additional spot opportunities for stuff that really don't run out of these. It might be more of like specialized. It's going to be best used for obviously secondary freight sourcing as something to back up. Filling empty miles, little knick-knack loads from point A to point B that may not have a lot of mileage on it. It might help you get out of the deadhead areas, and also backup freight options. In other words, if you couldn't find it on the first two, go to this one, and hopefully you can find something on here. The weakness is the rate consistency can be very heavy. Can vary heavily. I'm sorry. It's just that there's a big jump between the same loads type of thing. But you got to remember, you got to watch out. If you're seeing the loads posted over all three of these boards, you know it's the same board, keep an eye out for that. Some of that's actual double brokering. Not saying that the carriers don't do it, and you got freight agents out there trying to negotiate the freight because they're trying to make money. But just keep that in mind when you're looking at these boards. Now, this is a very narrow aspect I'm giving you on these load boards, but this gives you a hell of an understanding of what you're looking at as you move through this. Now, how to read the market completely? The posted rate alone means absolutely nothing. You must also evaluate the number of the trucks in the area. Absolutely majorly matters whether it's a spot board day or it's a broker day. They either broker's killing everybody or you got to leverage because just not a lot of trucks of your specs in that given area. So when it pops up, you got a good opportunity to make some money off of it. The urgency of the shipment, how quick does it have to be? The numbers, the day of the week, is it on the weekend or is it in the Monday where everything's a higher flow of volume and all that type of stuff? And what are the market demands for your given type of truck? Also, the weather, and we're talking about, what it's really going to be, and what in reference to if it's snowy, is it rainy, that thing's, and that I'm looking at one thing ahead of you. So I'm sorry about that. Didn't mean to stutter, but the weather in general, just the weather conditions, are you going to be able to drive? Is the roads going to be shut down? You need to watch out for them roads shut down. People don't take that in consideration. You could be in a day and they can say, well, hey, it's going to probably snow this afternoon, and they missed it by a couple hours. Now you got snow dumped all over the road. The roads were already wet. Now they started freezing up. So always keep weather. It's very important. The deadhead distance, know what your deadhead. It has to be figured into your profit margin. What's your minimum that you can take for that freight? You can't just eat deadhead miles. That's counterproductive. Reload opportunities, really, what do you have available when you're actually reading these? And I know what you're going to be able to do with your piece of equipment to reload out of that given area you're going to. Also, the fuel cost. Now when we're taking this, you're taking all this to build a big picture. Let me back up. All this, you need to understand you're building a big picture of the overall value of your truck. So when negotiating the rates, you can know what you're asking. If all this is leveraged to where it works against me because there's too many factors that are actually making it where the rate's going to be rate of the freight's going to be low for me, then I've got a problem. But the fuel cost is probably the biggest one that everybody sees because that's the most dominant one in your eyes, because every time you stop at the fuel pump, that money just gang. The lane history. Remember, the lane history, you can go back but you still have to take the other factors to figure in, like the market demand, the fuel cost, the number of trucks in the area. Those big points are going to be the big determining factor of what the lane history does, because all of a sudden it might be a bunch of people there with their trucks when it wasn't for that last year when it gave that lane history. So don't always take each one as an individual piece. You have to take them, put them together, and then assimilate what this looks like for me as the truck or the freight dispatcher when I'm booking that truck out of that given area. And this is easy to do. It takes me longer to explain all this than it is to do it. It becomes second nature. Okay, let's see what else we got. Give me a second here. Let me scroll this up. A professional dispatcher does not, one, don't beg for no freight, and you don't fight with people, don't argue emotionally, and don't chase every load. Okay, if they need you, you can't just, you can only do what you can do. You know what's going to happen. You can get burned out, then you're out. You're literally out of the game because now you are completely burnt out of dealing with it. Now, the most important lesson, a professional dispatcher interprets the market correctly. They protects the profitability, negotiates calmly, understands the leverage that he has with his equipment, maintains a professional relationship with them, and obviously you're thinking long term the whole way. Because in logistics, markets change daily. The brokers do remember your professionalism, the relationships and with the brokers and with the owner operators. All this does matter. They had the logistics industry big, but like I tell people, it ain't that damn big. A lot of people know me. Some people know me. I don't even know who they are. I crossed them at some point, but I resonate in their head. So we've obviously have crossed paths before. And your reputation on your professionalism and all that made you to the profile of what you are as a freight dispatcher, that's what actually is going to end up getting you a lot of opportunities in the basic sense, I guess, because it depends on where your trucks are moving. If you got people in the same lanes, it really matters, but they're all over the place and they're just running all 48 states, and it's harder to have that as a utilization point, but your reputation does matter. Now, professional negotiation structure, okay, we got it marked down here. Verify the load details. For one, make sure that before you even do it, make sure you run their MC. Okay, make sure that that's even a company you want to trust. If they're slow paying this stuff, just cut them loose. You're wasting time. Don't even make the phone call. Determine the true operating costs of your equipment. Check the market conditions for not just where you're at, but definitely where you're going. Present rate calmly. Don't get hungry. Okay, just slow yourself down, man. There's going to be freight coming across the board. You just don't want your truck sitting there for days and days. And listen to responses. Listen to the details. Listen to the tone of their voice. You'll start learning to read people through the phone. And negotiate without emotion. Don't get emotionally involved. It's money. It's freight. It don't care about you. It comes and it goes. Next thing, if hostile, exit the conversation professionally. Don't get all stressed out. Don't let them change the semantics of your day. Exit professionally, and obviously, just you learn something, how to handle an idiot kind of thing. And beyond all things, bottom line is protect the truck's profitability. All this is all about taking care of the truck and protecting the truck's profitability. So, anyways, but I hope that helped you understand more about spot board negotiation. Now, if you want to get a hold of me, and you need a course, so we always put this in our videos, go to truckdrivernation.com. Come down the homepage. There's a QR code. You want to get me in Telegram. We do have Wednesday webinars. We got webinars for our students, all that good stuff. I hope this gives you some kind of reflection about, what we do, how we do what we do, how we teach you guys to actually become effective freight dispatchers. Anything that came out my mouth just wasn't something to waste time. You need to heed what's being said, because this is actually how logistics works. Okay. Yes, there's some given other variables in here that we don't just go into every single thing, because we mainly concentrate on dry van, reefer, flatbed, and step deck. Car hauling, oil field, marine work, intermodal, totally different game. They're all niches in themselves, RGN, etc. And as you present these, some of the base core information is actually applicable to those given problems, but the way that we load them and we look at the rates and all that stuff's a lot different. Some spots like RGN, there ain't no really set rate on some of it. We look at how big the piece of equipment, how specialized it is, how many axles we have to have, all that stuff's going to determine what we're going to negotiate as the final rate for moving that piece of equipment. But that being said, this is where majority of the loads are moved from. Everybody says, oh, well, the big carriers, they're out there. Big carriers only make up shit, y'all, less than 10%. Majority of the carriers, is really 100 trucks or basically 40 trucks and under that make up majority of I think it's something like 560 some thousand carriers that are out here. So the small carriers dominate the industry. So don't think that you're fighting against the big carriers. And I know people like, well, yeah, they can run for so less because of their buying power and their fuel power. I don't know where the math's coming from, but they're looking at that wrong. So, but anyways, that being said, make sure you understand these points. So as you spill your skill set and your problem solving skills, that you can understand how we actually go in here and look at the freight, negotiate out with the brokers, come out on the other end, whether it was a hostile situation. And remember, this is literally every single phone call. You have to take this protocol and use it in every single one. That's the reason you're going to know it like the back of your hand. But anyways, I hope that helped. I appreciate your time. Thank you for watching my video. Truck Driver Nation would like to thank everybody that, has put their trust in us to help them get to where they want to get to. I drove for 24 years, over 30 years in the industry. Definitely been there, done it, been a part of it. Had problems, caused problems, etc. But that being said, I hope this here benefits you in whatever way that you may have needed it to. But outside that, thank you for your time. Be blessed and be safe if you're out down that road. And we look forward to working with you in the future. Other than that, thank you.